Welcome back, children. In the third part of energy flow in ecosystem. In the first two parts, we have seen the energy flow in ecosystem in different manners. Now, in the third part, we are going to check out about the food web. We completed our session with the discussion of a food chain. Now we are going to understand how different is the food web from the food chain. So just to check out, we have discussed all this, and in the learning objectives I have told you all that by the end of the lesson we are going to understand what is a food chain, what is a food web, the trophic levels, the carbon, nitrogen and oxygen cycles, and now we are going to study the food web today, how it affects all this. We have seen an ecosystem, the components, the producers, consumers, food chain, aquatic ecosystem. Now today we are going to study about the food web. My dear children, so far when we have studied the food chain, we know that a food chain is simple. One organism eats another in a single pathway. But do you think the nature really works like that? Imagine a rabbit. Do you think only a fox eats the rabbit? Here you are. This is the rabbit. Do you think only the fox eats the rabbit? Do you really think so? No. Snakes eat rabbit too. Here you have. The snakes also eat rabbit. Right? Now, we know that the hawks hunt for the rabbits, and the hawks, they hunt for the rabbits, and humans also consume rabbits in some part of the world. Similarly, you can see a mouse over here. This particular mouse may be eaten by the snakes. It can also be eaten by the owls. It can be eaten again by the foxes, the cats and the hawks. This means organisms, usually have more than one food source and more than one predator. This complex network is called as a food web. Now, if we observe this particular diagram, you have also seen that at the bottom you find the particular food producers, right? The plants, the grass and the algae. Now, you can see that the insects are feeding on the grass, correct? Now, these particular insects, they feed on the plants. But then you know that the rabbits also actually feed on the grass, right? So, over here you see that the squirrels, they eat the seeds and the fruits. But the birds also eat seeds and they also eat the insects. So, if you look at this carefully, the frog eats the insects. The frog eats the insects and the snake eats the frogs and the rabbits. The snake eats the frog and the rabbits. So, the hawk can prey on the snakes. So, one organism is connected to many others. That is why this is called as a web. Okay. Every arrow represents the direction of the energy flow from food to the organism consuming it. Now, let us, consider the real life example. What is your own diet? Do you eat only rice every day? No. You eat chapati, you eat vegetables, you eat fruits, milk, pulses, eggs, or many other foods. Similarly, animals also, they do not survive on just one food source. Nature always provides alternatives. That makes the ecosystem more stable. Okay. Now, when you're looking at the type of questions that are going to be asked in the examination, remember the food chain is a single pathway. I repeat, the food chain is a single pathway. Food web has got multiple interconnected food chains. So, you can have many questions in which, many MCQs in which they can ask you the difference. So see that you are really understanding the difference between a food chain and a food web. What will happen if the rabbits disappear from this food web? I started the discussion of this chapter by asking what will happen if the grass disappear, right? So you actually have to think on these particular grounds. So here again I'm asking you, suppose the rabbit disappeared, which animal would be first affected? So such food webs you have to know, but such food chains you have to know, and you have to answer. Okay. So now, what they ask you in the examination is, why is a food web more stable than a food chain? What did I ask? Why is a food web more stable than a food chain? See, what you have to understand is, this is the particular typical concept based question. Now, this is to be understood with a very simple example. Suppose there is only one restaurant in the city. Okay. If that restaurant closes, what will happen? Everyone is going to face a problem. Imagine a case too, where there are 50 restaurants and one of them is closed. What will happen? People will simply go and visit the other restaurant. This is what you have to remember. Same thing with the nature. A food chain provides only one route for the energy transfer. If one organism disappears, the entire chain can break. But in a food web, organisms have multiple food sources. Okay, so if one food source is unavailable, they can switch on to the another. Therefore, food webs are much more stable than the food chains. This diversity protects the ecosystems from sudden collapse. Okay, now what you have to think, suppose the insects become very few. Nowadays the farmers they use insecticides, right? Why they use insecticides? They want the particular plants to grow without any danger, right? Now, because of these pesticides, uh, which are the particular organisms which would be affected first? Frogs, then many birds, few reptiles. Gradually, the effect spreads throughout the ecosystem. Now, this is what shows that one small change affects the whole system. So, in nature, diversity creates stability. And basically, remember, my dear children, the same applies to human life. Having multiple skills, multiple opportunities, and multiple solutions makes us stronger. So, see that you have multiple skills and create multiple opportunities. Okay. So now let's move on to the next particular uh, topic, that is the trophic levels. See, here just check out. We come to one of the most important concepts in ecology, that is the trophic level. The word trophic, what is the meaning of this? The word trophic means, nourishment. It is a Greek word which means nourishment. Nourishment or feeding. Now, every step in the food chain is called as a trophic level. Just check out. Okay. See, first come the producers, right? Now, the producers can be either the plants, they can be the plants, they can be the algae, or they can be the phytoplankton, right? What do? What is the fundamental work? They capture the solar energy. What happens here? With the help of the producers, the solar energy enters the ecosystem. Okay, so this is trophic level 1. Look at the trophic level 2. Now, these are called as the primary consumers. See, they will include the herbivores, that is the deer, the rabbits, the cows, the grasshoppers, because they are getting the energy directly from the trophic level 1, that is the producers. Okay, let us move on to the third trophic level now, where you will find the secondary consumers. Okay, Now these secondary consumers, what do? They eat the herbivores. So these secondary consumers which eat the herbivores, they include the frogs, the fish, okay? They include the frogs, the fish, also small carnivores. From here, let us move on to the fourth trophic level where we call them as the tertiary consumers. Now, these particular tertiary consumers, include snakes, eagles, okay. As we move to the very top, we see the apex predators, and those apex predators include the lions and the tigers, okay, the sharks, okay. Now, understand one very important thing here. These particular, quaternary consumers or the apex predators, you will find that they are very few. They are very few, okay. Now, you see that the pyramid at the base is so huge, and as we move from one step to the other, from one trophic level to the other, we see that at the top, it is going on decreasing, right? As we move upward, the number of organisms, they go on decreasing. Okay, this is a very interesting fact. Now, can you just imagine why this happens? Because see, less and less energy. See, this is a very important concept you have to understand. Less and less energy is available. Okay, the higher you go up, the fewer organisms the ecosystem can support. So, what you have to remember is, first and foremost, we have the producers, then we have the primary consumers, then we have the secondary consumers, then we have the tertiary consumers, followed by the apex predator. So, what do you think? What trophic level would the humans occupy? Can you tell me? Okay. Remember, it all depends on what are the eating habits. Okay. When eating vegetables, we are actually only the primary consumers when we are eating vegetables. But then those who eat chicken, they become the secondary consumers. And fish, when we say that, fish is being consumed, that time, and if the fish are feeding on smaller fish, then maybe we can occupy the higher trophic levels. So it all depends on what we are consuming to be called as primary, secondary or higher level trophic consumers. Okay. Now, next thing that you have to understand over here, a very important concept. This is called as the pyramid. Okay. What does this pyramid explain to us? What does it actually help us to understand? It helps us understand the greatest laws in ecology. Okay. Look at the base. Base is the made up of producers, right? It gets the energy directly from the sunlight. So it gets maximum amount of energy. As the energy moves upwards, okay, less and less is available. Okay, decreasing energy level. And just look out, as you move upwards, the biomass is also decreasing. That is, only about 10% of the energy from one trophic level is transferred to the next. Is this clear? The remaining 90% is used for life processes such as movement, respiration, growth, or maintaining the body temperature, reproduction. Much of it is released as heat. This particular, concept is called as the 10% law. What did I say? The 10% law. Now, this was proposed by Raymond Linneman, and if plants store around 10,000 units of energy, I tell you again, if plants store around 10,000 units of energy, the herbivorous animals, they receive only 1,000 units. Remember, the carnivores are going to receive only 100 units. And the top predators are going to receive only 10 units. That is why the ecosystem always have many producers but very few apex predators. Are you understanding this concept? Are you sure you have understood this concept? I repeat, if the producers are getting 10,000 units of energy from the sun, the primary consumers, that is the herbivores, would get only 1,000, the secondary consumers would get only 100, and the top predators are going to get only the 10% of the energy. Okay. So now, this explains why there are many rabbits and only few lions. Okay. So it's not only because the lions reproduce slowly, but then it is the main reason is the particular lion, it belongs to the top of the pyramid. Okay. So this is what you have to understand and understand it perfectly. The next thing now. I told you according to the pyramid that the particular energy decreases. Now let us see why only 10% of the energy is reaching the predators. Okay. Now let us understand that what is 10% law. Let us understand it level by level. See, as we have seen in the pyramid, the producers, that is the plants, they get 100% of the energy. The green plant captures the sunlight. It stores it in the form of chemical energy through photosynthesis, right? Now this is the largest energy in the food chain. The grass is eaten by the deer, correct? So this deer, it eats the grass. Now this deer, it does not store all the energy from the grass, right? So it uses most of it for walking, for running, for digestion, for maintaining the body temperature. So only a fraction of it stays in the body. Now what about the next trophic level? We are talking about the flying birds and all that. Now these flying birds and all, again they need a lot of energy for flying. Enormous amounts of energy it needs. And then finally think of the lion. So before catching its prey, just think it spends hours together searching, stalking. So these are the things you have to remember. So all of this consumes energy. So by the time the energy reaches the lion, only a tiny fraction of the original solar energy remains. This is why food chains usually have only 4 or 5 trophic levels. So you see, from 100 it comes to 10, 10 it comes to 1, and 1 it comes only to 0.1%. So I said a fraction. I told you all that, see how much of energy lion is spending. It is, before catching the prey, it spends hours searching for it, then stalking that prey and sprinting, and so it consumes a lot of energy. This is what you have to remember. So now I want you to know that in this concluding part of the third part, I want you all to know that we have learned in this third part, nature is not a collection of organisms only. It is a carefully balanced network where energy flows from the sun. From the sun it actually flows to the producers, and then through different trophic levels to the next level. In the last part, we would be seeing the direction, why energy flows in only one direction, and how the essential elements like carbon, nitrogen and oxygen keep cycling through the ecosystems to sustain the life. Okay, so we will be meeting in the next session. I am confident you all must be understanding all of the concepts perfectly. Make 100% use of these videos, my dear children, to understand the concepts so that you are in a position to understand what is a food chain, how to apply this particular knowledge, and how to go ahead with concept-based questions in any of the competitive examinations. Okay, so here, before concluding, I would tell you once again, this particular chart that I have actually made for you, just see where the total energy goes, you know, how much it receives and where it goes. So each and every tropical level, why the energy goes on decreasing. Okay, thank you very much. Keep watching Goal Guru at Ignite 100. We are here to ensure that most of your requirements, which are competitive examination based, are really fulfilled. Thank you.